it is so hard for human beings to be aware of their health or of what makes them healthy or of what is good for them in a normal status quo situation. Why are we in such firm denial? And why does it only become something that we are so heightened, like so aware of in this kind of crisis situation? What is your view on that?
No, I think, the question is obviously, very simple, yet also a bit ridiculous that it's not obvious, right? So the thing is that, when you look at the average person, they become busy being busy, right? And this is not the average, even the top, the people at the top, right? Yeah. So it's always, to me, it's about sustainable, right? What kind of way of life are you creating that's sustainable? So, when I speak to CEOs and say, oh yeah, I go to the gym, or I go to with a trainer, or I go to kickboxing, or whatever they're doing for an hour 3 times a week. The first question I ask is the timing of when they're doing it. Because if it's in the afternoon, we all know as a CEO, there's a high probability it'll be canceled, right? Secondly, it's not sustainable when they travel. And most of them travel 6 months of the year. So the question becomes, why it's not a default is because I feel that people set themselves up for failure. They set up programs and protocols that are not sustainable. So we help people set up a 20-minute protocol, which is a combination of meditation, some form of stretch, and some form of cardio, right? In that 30 minutes, sorry, not 20, in that 30 minutes, so 10, 10, 10. So that way, even when they're traveling, it's very hard for somebody to tell me I don't have 30 minutes, even though I've just taken a 12-hour flight or a 14-hour flight. But the question that you're asking is, why is it so hard for people to have it as a default, right? And not put health as a priority. I agree and disagree. There's a lot of people that have done it, but they've done it more on the physical side. So they are doing the workout. They are doing, more attentive as to what they eat. But what they're not looking at is what are the elements that prepare us for today, right? Which is quality of sleep. Second, the thoughts, right? So the mind training, which we spoke before the podcast about. Then the feelings, right? That emotional state, right? So differentiating emotion and feeling, and the relational state. Because I know what will come as we talk will be about the children and relationships and communication and connection, right? So on one hand, many of us didn't have enough time with our family members and created it and enjoyed it and loved it when we went on holiday. And now all of a sudden, we've got excess and the challenges begin, right? Because now we get to see behind or below or beneath the kimono. Now it's difficult to hide the cracks and the issues that are day to day, right? So tell me, I don't want to keep talking unless you want me to.
No, I think it's very interesting the way that you've taken this, because I think another very revealing thing about our society as humans in general is how people have reacted to isolation. And you're perfectly right. I think what really comes to the fore is this. Some reactions have been quite hilarious, to be honest with you. Like, I find like some of the things are going around on the internet of people showing their home life in isolation is quite frankly very entertaining. They've taken a very humorous approach to recording it, especially dealing with smaller children. It's lovely to see people take it with a sense of humor in this difficult time. But then there's also a lot of people who are truly made unhappy by this situation because of what you mentioned, which is that it of course puts an extra emphasis on things that might not have been working in the first place, and that might be very revealing in this moment in time. Coping mechanisms. I think like today, what we see a lot here is that a lot of people are rarely in a situation where it's required for them to have an actual coping mechanism. And this is one of those moments, isn't it? This is one of those moments where force majeure, you don't have a choice, you have to do this, and everybody does. How do you cope? Now, when we talk about coping mechanisms, and I know this is also one of the things that you're very passionate about, where do you think in our education we lack emphasis on coping mechanisms for certain situations? And how, as an adult today, that hasn't been forced to cope with a lot of complex situations, how can I trigger healthy coping mechanisms in this current situation? What do you think?
Okay, so going first to the education system, right? Clearly, the element of learning to be truly present and engaged. Now, as a child, this is your default, right? You're always engaged, you're always present. You don't need to teach a child to be present and engaged. They're always there, right? So yes, as people get older, that training, right, of meditation, which allows you to balance the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, is not there, right? That training is not there to remain calm irrespective of your environment, right? Which is what's happened now, right? The environment has completely changed. And now you need to choose to be either calm or anxious, to either react or respond, right? And choose. 'Cause remember, there's two things you control in life: the meaning you give to everything that happens and your response or reaction. So we have families who are truly grateful, right, that they are actually able to have meals as a family. Okay, maybe not breakfast, but at least lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
Many of them in Asia, especially, would not even make it home for dinner because the kids are eating early. Asia, we work long hours, and they would never be home. And now they get to enjoy all these meals together. So that's the gratitude, right? The ability to, they always say, the family that eats together stays together, right? And what it actually means is the family that chooses together. And what I mean by chew is digest, conversation, converse, share, and then digest means that we all align and agree, right? So you have an opportunity now to do what you weren't able to do or didn't have the opportunity to do before. But on the other hand, you also have now an overwhelm of time spent together for both sides, right? The parents are always there, right? And the children are always there, right? And then the bigger added is the school. If a school is not able to go online, which I understand even where you are in Switzerland, many of the public schools aren't, right? Now you have the added workload of helping your children learn, in addition to learning how to work remotely, in addition to if you had help doing all the cleaning and the chores and the cooking yourself. Obviously, I'm, talking about the privileged, right? Because I'm hearing them too. They're now have allocated, designated jobs for every family member in the house to take care of that part of the home. I know for, these are first world problems we're talking about, right, Ramia? Okay.
Oh, still,
right?
But I mean, it makes a difference, right? Like for a lot of people,
right?
For sure.
Yeah. And then work, how to work remotely, right? How do I bring well-being, care, and empathy to the workplace as a leader while everybody else, has given their meaning to this situation, right? So now going back to so that was the training and what's going on. But now what can you do? I mean, what our role in Qineticare, what do? We help families build resilience for one of the things that are guaranteed, which is change. And people say to me, wait a minute, how could you have planned for this? It's not about planning for this specific moment, as in Corona, because we didn't know Corona existed, right? Well, not this one, right? We're talking about planning for the unexpected. And how do you do that is by building physical resilience, which many people that I think you're referring to have, because they're more or less quote unquote healthy. I'm talking from a eating, drinking, and movement perspective.
Sure.
Then we look at the sleep side, right, which impacts, then you look at the thoughts. Now, what can they do? Learning meditation, great. It's a good time to do it. It's a perfect time to do it, right? Then we talk about thoughts and emotions. Yes, some people have coaches, some people have mentors, but even if you don't, just take a simple journal and start writing, right? Start with 12 minutes if you want to time it, right? If not, just write every day, designate a time and put it in. And in that, a lot of people will say gratitude, bring in some gratitude in that space, right? And then when it comes to feelings, when it comes to relationships, right? Ask your family members or the people around you, how are you feeling? See, because a lot of kids are also out of their league. My father is 86 years old. Okay. He's seen a lot in the markets. He's exited more than 80% of his position because he said, I have no idea how to deal with this. Like, I've seen a lot, but not this. Right. So now if an 86-year-old is out of his league, okay, imagine everybody else in between. Right. So we are all out of our league. But the question is, what can we do now, like you said? Because these are all the protocols we do in advance, that when this happens, the question to ask is, what is the opportunity here? Not what has been taken away, what I'm not allowed to do, right? What can I co-create in this time and space to be able to, you take a blank piece of paper, right? So, I'm a Muslim, and so in Ramadan, what is the real concept? Is what I think, is it serving me? What I see, is it serving me? What I hear, is it serving me? What I speak, is it serving me? What I eat, is it serving me? What I feel, is it serving me? What I do, is it serving me? So take a blank piece of paper and do an audit, right? Most of us are, us in India, we're in week 10, so we're a little bit ahead of the curve, but most people are in week 2 or week 3, right? And based on what we're seeing, this is at least an 8-week process, right? So you have 6, 7, 8 weeks left to rethink your way of being, right? When would you have that opportunity, as we say in business, to work on your business, not in your business?
Yes.
Right? But this is to work on your life, right? On your well-being from a physical, mental, emotional, relational perspective, which I know it's easier said than done.
I think that this fear at such a primal level of, I don't want to get sick, or I don't want other people to get sick, and I basically want to, going back to that idea, I want to survive. I think that's something that we are not in touch with very often as a society, right? Like as a so-called civilized society, I guess. So what do you think are the consequences of that emotion in people's mindsets? And what do you think, can turn that fear into a positive force or a positive drive, as opposed to outright panic and freeze, like deer in the headlights sort of a situation? What do you think?
Obviously you're talking about the old part of the brain, right? Which is fight or flight. That's what's going on, right? So most people are going into that zone, right? Their cortisol levels are completely out of whack. Their parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems are out of whack. And everybody is in that space, right? Which is what you're talking about. I wouldn't say everybody, many people are. Now, of course, the preparation, I don't want to sound like a broken record, is obviously to, meditation is the space that's like a head cleaner that cleans out all of that, things that are not serving you, right? Right? Now, is it too late to begin? No, of course not, right? Now, if I tell somebody, don't worry, right, that's actually opposite, right? They're going to worry, because I was already a negation in my comment, right? So the reality is that, what can you do, right? Now, I've written a book, as you know, and in the 4 steps, right? The first step is to embrace what is. Now, most people are not embracing what is; they're actually accepting it at the most, right? You said denial, but let's say they accept it. But acceptance is actually is a giving in or a giving up. Embracing is gaining.
Right.
You're actually gaining from that space. So the first step is, how can I embrace this situation, which only will come from the space of me saying, what is the opportunity here? Right? So looking at the positive side, and you can do a SWOT analysis if you're, hardcore in the business world. Do a SWOT and really sit down and look at what are, like we say, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in this space. And you will be surprised at the opportunities and the strengths that are available to you, right? Then you look at the second step is trust, right? This is where is what's being challenged. Do we trust life? Do we trust the universe? Do we trust God? Do we trust, in many cases, the government, right? Do we trust society? Do we trust community, right? And that trust comes from responsibility, right? So in Asia, it's a very collective society, right? Where people take responsibility not for themselves, but for the other person, right? And that's what's coming in today, is that not only do I have to trust myself and my family, I need to trust beyond.
It's true.
Which is a tall order, right? Then we go to the third step, which is calm, right? Am I going to remain calm, or am I going to be anxious?
Yeah.
Am I going to be fearful? The word you use, fear, right? Now, if I'm calm, then I can have clarity of mind to be in a state of flow where I make the choices that are in the best interest of not only myself, my loved ones, my family at large, my community, my country, and the world at large, right? Because that's what's being truly tested, right? Is that, are we going to move from me to we, right? That's what's happening, right? You know that, right? I mean, like you said, there are no borders, right? That's what global trade was supposed to be about, right? That's what globalization is supposed to be about. No borders. But look what's happening. The first thing we did was shut our borders.